everyone. Once again, a very warm welcome to today's program. My name is Chiogo Ikoku, and I am editorial lead at the African Press Club. Our trainer or speaker today is Newman Gompil. Newman is an independent producer and a multimedia practitioner with special interest in communications for development. After his business administration bachelor's degree, he started his professional journey in insurance brokerage before transitioning into print media. After a brief stint as finance reporter with Ken Thompson Associates, Abuja, Nigeria in 2004, he moved to broadcast media, BBC World Service Trust, where he will manage multi-award winning productions such as Waiting Day, a 45 episodes television drama series on HIV and AIDS, and Story Story, a 20 series radio drama series on environment and good governance. He has co-produced The Lost Cafe, a feature film shot in Nigeria and Norway in 2017. He is currently working on a docudrama based on terrorism that will be shot in Barcelona, Spain, and some parts of northeastern Nigeria. He is passionate about international news and politics, and is also a team member at the African Press Club. Newman speaks English, Hausa, and Spanish. Welcome, Newman, and you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Constance, and everyone on board. There's something on my screen. I don't know. Should I take it off, or Constance, like you taking it off?
Hold on. Can you share your screen? Hold on. Let me make you a co-host. Yeah. I'm not sure you're co-host now.
No, I'm not. Maybe that's not important. Don't you know?
Okay, don't worry. It's done. Yeah, you're co-host. You can share your screen.
All right, it's okay. I'm good this way. Anyway, my name is Newman. You know, there's no point for any more introductions. I am speaking to you right now in Galicia. I'm in Galicia, in Spain, northwestern part of Spain. I'm on holidays actually. And Constance, did her magic to get me on board to do this talk. I didn't want to do it because, anyway, bottom line, I'm here, and I'm really, really happy to be there. I was a bit worried also because being on holidays, I would have to look for a good internet connection, blah, 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 blah. And luckily enough, I'm in my neighbor's place right now, my neighbor's flat, and they were very gracious to let me use their place for the connection. So I hope we don't have any problems with the connection and all that. But if not, if we do, I also have as a standby my phone, so we can always connect. All right. So just let me know if there's something wrong. We can always switch off. No problem for me. Yeah. Now, as Constance said, in the last 5 years, I have done quite a few stuff in productions, radio and television, documentaries, also feature films. But I've also worked in a school. I had someone said, they worked in the school. Was that Antonio? I'm not sure, but so that's really, really assuring. I would like to ask every one of us, whoever is interested, to tell me, what they would want to take out of this chat. So just in a sentence or two, what you would like to take out of this chat. All right. Can we start with Anthony? Unmute yourself and talk.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Newman. I'm so excited about this workshop. what I would love to take out from this workshop, because I'm learning to write, and I've always I wished that I could write good stories, and stories that could have good titles or good headlines. Because when I was young in secondary school, I did a bit of writing, and to my surprise, I did a story that attracted the whole school, but without knowing that I had that power into how to write. But my teacher helped me to give it a good headline. The content, I did it by myself, but my teacher helped me to give me a good headline. So that's something that I'm looking forward to in this workshop, just to think of good headlines that attracts the readers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Anthony. Yeah. Anybody else? I'm not going to call name. Just feel free, unmute yourself, and just take it up. Just a quick sentence. Da 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 da. What's more?
Okay.
But I'm glad that.
Okay, so I'm Tim Topoloabi from Nigeria, and then what I want to get out from this chat, this Zoom conference, is how, as media practitioners or students, we can be able to report news better in a more objective and accurate manner, so as not to mislead the public, and also ensure that we reduce fake news in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, this is Natalie. As I said, I'm not a journalist, so I think I have a lot to to catch in this session. But as I said, also I am managing the Instagram page, so I think that I can catch some tips to know how to summarize or to write some short stories to attract an audience. So I don't know if from journalism I can. Sorry for the noise. I am. So I don't know if from journalism I can get some ideas to improve this, and yes, basically that's what I'm searching for.
So you're talking about writing, or I don't know, I don't understand.
Yeah, to write. Yes, to write.
You want to
write? Yes, but I mean,
yeah.
From the outside, because I'm not a journalist. Right? What I see,
sure.
Writing as a journalist can be telling stories, can be also summarize stories of others, and that's what I'm looking in the Instagram page. That's what I'm doing, basically, to summarize some article that it is on the African Press Club. So what I'm looking for is to know how to write short stories or catchy headlines. Basically, that's what I'm searching.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
This is Hussein. I'm Hussein Chiganda. I'm expecting to learn more about writing too. I've been writing for the African Press Club, and I've been informed that there are some topics where I have some loopholes. So I would like to cover them up in these sessions, in these training sessions, that I can learn more. That is.
Beautiful. All right, I think we've had enough. We can just proceed. But I need to get out one or two caveats out there quickly. First, I mean, there's no expert here. I'm certainly not an expert. The whole idea is, we share knowledge. So really, feel free. I'm not coming here as, some professor, if you know what I mean. No, I'm also learning on the job, and I'm very, very happy for us to share knowledge, and that's the whole idea, for this chat, basically. And also, come on, feel free, get a glass of water or palm wine, or something, Exactly, something like that. So you can, so relax, and then we delve into the talk. Last weekend, I was doing a lot of driving. I'm very specific about last weekend because I think I probably did about 2,000 plus kilometers. And on the night of Friday, I was driving somewhere along the west of France, and I ran into a big pool of water on the road. And I heard a very strange noise, and the car was covered, like literally, in the water. It was right in the middle of the road, but the water had taken over the road, and I didn't know. It was night, and the car, slowly came to a stop, and was able to steer it out of danger, and then continued my journey, and decided to sleep over in Lyon, in France, which was really nice. And the next day, at breakfast, I decided to catch up on the news of what was happening around the world. And if you're very conversant with what the happens, especially in the western part of Europe, you would know about the floods, and all of that, the destruction, over 200 people, dead or missing, all of that. And so I wanted to catch up and see what's happening. And after that, I did hit the road again, and I stopped in Bilbao, in the northeastern part of Spain, I think. And in Bilbao, had dinner. Lovely place, lovely place, and continued my way to the northwestern part of Spain, which is Galicia, where I am right now. And the whole motivation, especially, killing the kilometers just to get to Galicia, was because usually on Sundays, I have a group of friends here that we go to a place called Furanchos. This is very, very Galician. It's where young wine is sold, and then you can really have a glass of 2 or 3 if you want, and you're given some very nice things to accompany the wine with. And I've been doing this for a lot of years, and so I was really looking forward to meeting my guys so we could do it again. But unfortunately, we got here on Sunday morning, and at about noon, I was told that the meeting was cancelled. You can imagine my disappointment, because I was trying to go really fast to make sure I didn't miss that. But life, these things happen in life, and that was what happened, right? So I've given you the highlight of my weekend, and I'd like for you to also tell me, I don't know, a highlight of your weekend, last weekend. I'm very specific about this. Something or two, that you thought would be interesting to share with us. But just quickly, 30 seconds, bam, 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 bam. Anybody wants to start? Go ahead, please. Unmute yourself and just talk. Anything that caught your attention, what you did in the past weekend.
Yeah, I had something exciting
all right.
last week. I've been teaching art for the past, say, 14 to 15 years. But last week I just discovered that that I could work well with a child who's challenged by autism. Just by using art, we were able to communicate well, and the parents actually agreed that they've never seen him as happy as he has been for the past 1 week that I worked with him. So for me, it was really a good week for me because I made someone happy in his life. They said he's been a bit unrest. And I mean, it's almost everywhere. Like, it doesn't follow instruction. It doesn't listen to anyone in the house. But the few days that I've worked with him, they've seen his patience. He's relaxed a lot, and he loves what, I mean, he's now able to at least listen to his parents and follow instructions. And though he cannot speak, but at least he's able to follow the simple instructions and a bit more calmer. So for me, it's something that hit me in my career, that sometimes you'd be doing something for a different objective and getting a different result that you never expected you'd get. So that's something that I would love to share.
Thank you very much for that. Anybody else wants to have a go? Now, in my story about last weekend, about 3 or 4 things stood out. First, in Burgundy, I entered a big pool of water, all right on the main road, in the night. I couldn't see, entered a pool of water, summary. Second, sleeping over in Lyon and waking up the next day, catching up on news. Third, dinner in Bilbao, Fourth, the wine, rendezvous canceled in Galicia. All right. So I want you to think about, it's not important whether you've said anything or not, but just think about the kind of structure, especially with highlighting what, in a story, you can always structure and to find, grounds from where to start from when you're writing, especially. And one thing I'm really, really happy about is the fact that writing has been like a recurring decimal. People want to know how to write better and all that. And Constant told me to try to focus on that, from the beginning. So I'm glad that, people are kind of interested. But, there's a challenge, with this medium. I mean, how can you teach writing on Zoom, So as I said, this is not a teaching, as it were. It's more of rubbing our heads together, trying to find the best solutions to spur us on, to be better writers, to be better in whatever we're doing, basically. All right. So anybody wants to take it up? The highlights of your weekend, last weekend, quickly, as we continue. One more person.
For me, yeah, yesterday, I got news from the company that I work for, Vision Group. It has a section of lifestyle and entertainment. In that section, it is also having its own independent newspaper or a newsletter, which is called the Kampala Sun. And they told me that the print section, the print bit was halted, and they were going to remain with only the website. It means that the newspaper is no longer there. So they put a stop on it, and because it is not making money, since it's a lockdown, no one is buying the newspapers, and the situation in the country is not okay. That is economic wise. So it means that I'm going to remain only writing for the website of the platform. However, on the same day, I happened to get a call from a friend who called me up for an assignment somewhere in an organization, and it was good working there because it was an easy task since it was writing, and I've learned good lessons from African Press Club, which I've used to see how I can write the stories. Yeah, that's what happened.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the contribution. Over 20 years ago, while still in the university, a friend of mine came and told me that he had a vision of, setting up a magazine. Reasons being that he wasn't satisfied with, what obtained that time, and he wasn't happy with the writing. He wasn't happy with the ideologies. He wasn't happy with, styles of reporting and all of that. Lots of a long list of things that he wasn't happy with that. And he managed to, he got me on board. He sold his vision to me, and I was, I bought into it. And but it remained that way until a few years later, when we were now out of the uni, and we happened to be living in the same part of town. And he came up again and said, "Look, hey, remember what I told you some 2, 3, 4 years back?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Look, it is time to go for it." And I was like, "Well, good, let's do it." So I wasn't what you would call a founder. I was an associate, but we built it from the ground. I want you to take a look at this. Can you see that? Now this, I don't know if you can see the year of publication. Can you see? Can you see, please? Can you see the year of publication and all that?
No, not at all.
Well, the name of the organization is visible, but the year of publication is not.
It's very small. Okay, so it's like, okay, it's Ken Thompson Quarterly, October to December 2004, volume 1. It's all there. So I will just flip through quickly. Basically, anyway, this was my, kind of like my first foray into print journalism, and it was a beautiful journey. It was a beautiful journey. We did set up, did the recruiting, got people on board, and I did mostly editing. But we had different functions for different people and all that. So we got the stories, planned out the stories, wrote them out, and edited. And eventually we went to press. And of course that was entirely a different journey, because now you have to sell and get the returns and all of that. Now, I'm saying this because what started probably in, say, 2001 was a reality in 2004, which was, the first day of publication of this Ken Thompson Quarterly magazine. And it is from this experience and a lot of others in my journey in the media that we'll be sharing today. The topic before us is journalism and the fundamentals of reporting. And I'm told to focus especially on writing, Now, what is journalism to you? when you say journalism, what comes to your head? What's the first thing that comes to you? Quickly, one or two contributors.
So, and then if someone says journalism, the first thing that comes to my mind is writing and reporting of news, and also being objective in what you write, and also just giving detail of event or what's happening in your society. That's what comes to my mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that wonderful contribution. Anybody else? One more person, and then we, journalism, reporting. What comes to your head? What's all that?
When I hear that, this was Hussein. Journalism, I just think of maybe someone going somewhere, or maybe a journey or on a visit or on something, and then you come back and report what you have seen or what you have observed. It may be through writing, or you can also use an audio, or you can also use videos to report what you saw. That's what I.
Thank you very, very much. Indeed, it is all of what you've said. It's basically all that. I'm really glad that you're contributing on that level. It is basically normal activities of gathering, creating, assessing news, and ultimately presenting the news. That's basically journalism. And when you talk about reporting, what would you term reporting of news as? Anybody?
Yeah, sorry, Newman, just before I forget, I just want to chip in from what to say, said, something that maybe someone would want to jot down and, look over it again. When he started talking about journey, I was thinking, I want to hear something like journalism is being on a journey with someone, the journey that you were not even part of it, but feeling like being on that journey with that person. So that simply means it's what he has actually said. But if you put it that way, storytelling kind of practice that I am not on that journey, but I'm not missing anything. I'm not missing the smell of that place. I am not missing the sight. I'm not missing the sound. I'm not missing the feel of that place. So it's more like journalism is being on a journey with a reporter, the journey that you were not there, but because he's coming to report everything that you were not there, but you're not going to miss. So, put it that way, any form of storytelling in the media, any other multimedia platform, telling that story to the viewer or the readers if they were there. So I like the way he started with the journey thing, but it's like, okay, I am also on this journey without being on that journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the contribution. It is indeed what you've said. It's a journey that you're not necessarily part of, and the magic is that you're able to see, even though you were not there to see it for what it is, and that will flesh out in a bit as we continue. But yes, it is a journey, and I completely agree, completely. And thank you very much for that contribution. Now, just to give a little structure to what we're doing, and we're considering, as I said, the topic on journalism and reporting and all that. Now, journalism is broadly categorized, under two broad headings in terms of like hard news.
Human.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Newman, to cut you. So I just noticed Sheila raised the hand. Maybe she wants to ask a question.
Ah, yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry if I
Sorry.
interject from time to time because I'm watching the chat. So Sheila, do you have a question? Please, you can go ahead.
Yes, well, I just wanted to bring my contribution of what I think perhaps journalism is. I'm not a journalist by profession, but I do enjoy writing stories. And perhaps what I miss in these times of a lot of misinformation and in these times where everyone can get to the latest news on the internet, perhaps journalism would be to have the courage to write true stories beyond the pressures that journalism face, no? Because sometimes you know that corporations maybe can be very powerful, and journalists could find themselves perhaps threatened to write certain stories. So for me, journalism would be, free people who have free minds and are committed to the profession and to bring true stories to the people, to the community. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the beautiful dimension that the internet, this multimedia platform has, brought into the mix. When I was growing, and these days we have other aspects of media like blogging, YouTube, and social media. It's all part of journalism, right? It's all part of writing. It's all part of storytelling. Something that cuts across all this is that you have a story, you have a message, and thinking through the how to put across the message is basically the same thing. Nothing differentiates you from that guy that sits down and writes, say, from New York Times, and have to do the same thing, in your bedroom with your cell phone. It's all has brought into the mix, and it is all of these, ingredients that we're considering today. So it's not just the traditional press, as it were. But as I was saying, and thank you very much, Constance, for I didn't see the hands, from her. Thank you for bringing that to my notice. And please feel free to interject. No problems at all. So you could talk about investigative journalism, political journalism, crime journalism. You can categorize this different types of journalism into two, what you call the hard news and say the soft news. The soft news will fall into entertainment, sports, say arts, paparazzi and all of that, and you know what entertainment does and all that. Very important. It's also a valid form of journalism. Don't let anyone tell you that that is not a serious journalism. That's not true. Or writing blogs and all of that. That is 100% journalism in every sense of the word. And then the political journalism, the way you get the hard news, crime and all of that, just to give a broad picture of what journalism entails. Now I would like to quickly to focus now on writing, having given a broad painting of what journalism entails. And I'm glad, as I said, that people are having interest in in becoming better writers or improving on their writing, and so that's going to be my focus. Personally, as a rule, and I think it's almost like a mantra, is for you to be a writer, or if you write good stories. I will always ask, what have you read? You can't write good stories. You can't churn out beautiful stories without reading. The first thing you have to do is to read and read and read wide. The more you read, the better you get at writing and structuring your stories, telling that story, passing across that message. It is really, really important. I can't overemphasize that. You must, there's no magic to it. There's no magic. You must read wide. In fact, for you to write, you must read first. So think about reading, just consuming. There's lots of content. Lots of content. These days, thank God, in the internet, there's 1,001, different levels of content that you can find. And books, magazines, newspapers, anything. Read and read. The more you read, the better you become at writing. And another rule of the thumb for me is, we all agree that as a writer, you have a message. There's something that you want to pass across. All right, and the rule is how to write it simply and clearly. So clarity and simplicity should be something that is a marker for anyone that wants to write well. You have to keep it simple, but much more than that, you must try to communicate clearly, and that might mean, writing in simple language. It's not important, but what's important really is the clarity and simplicity as you do your thing. Now, research is an integral part of what you do as a writer. You cannot write effectively without effective research. If you're going to be writing, say, about a bank collapsing, for example, and it will do you good to know some basic vocabularies, in the banking industry. And that's where research comes in, because with that, you're able to speak their language and speak the language of what you're writing about, to contextualize, what you're writing or what you're writing about. So research is really, really key. Helps you with the vocabularies, with the terminologies. It also helps you giving it a broader perspective. Structure. It's something that is very, very important for a writer. You cannot, as I told you, I have also taught in a school, and I imagine myself, teaching kids. And there's a way you talk to a kid, and there's a way you talk to teenagers. There's a way you talk to adults. All right. So knowing your audience, it's very, very key also. You must know who you're talking to, or you must know your intended audience as to where, for you to know how to structure your work. The kind of language you use, even start, is for you to be able to logically. By logically, I mean, so people will understand, your drift. Okay. I think someone mentioned balance, which is also very key. Now, as a young reporter, I remembered a young reporter moving into did some editing, roles. And when I was about to shift base from the print media into the broadcast media, I had a mentor that said something about objectivity that had, helped me all these years. Of course, then I was young, and I really tried to argue with her. Because I didn't agree with what she that point. Producer, director, everything, everything in the media. She's based in the UK, and when I had the opportunity to work with her, grapple with with the
sorry, Newman.
Yeah.
Newman, your internet is a bit unstable, so maybe you want to repeat what you just said.
Thank you very much. I will repeat again. I said, as a young, thank you very much, Constance. Just prompt me if there's any such thing, so I know, and I can always repeat myself. I said, as a young man in my journey into shifting base from the print media into broadcast media, one of my producer told me that there's no such thing as 100% objectivity in any in any media or in any paper or in anything that's any production that's put in place. There's no such thing. And I didn't understand the enormity of what she said, because truly you cannot talk about balance. It's something that's very, very important in for writing stories or reports or anything in journalism as a whole, or even in storytelling, whatever you do, balance. And what is balance? It's basically representing the different voices that you may not necessarily agree with, right? So it's not like, it's not all about you. But even if there's one person, just one person, 99% of the other people feel, about a particular issue, have a different view, and there's this one person, you owe that one voice some kind of representation. You owe it. It is a golden rule, for balance. What that does is to bring on board the different opinions, right? But even at that, no writer or every writer or any storyteller has an agenda. Yes, and I say that it may be unconscious, but we all have our agenda. We all have our stand. As a matter of fact, all the media houses have their ideology, and by their ideology, this what they stand for. And when you come on board, it will serve you really, really well to know the ideology of the media house you're representing, for you to be able to portray. It makes your job really, really easier. Now, if you don't understand the ideology of the media house, and as I said, no media house, every media house has an agenda. Every media house has an ideology. All right, it's really, really key to understand that. And then you, as a person, as a writer out there in the field, you can now put all this perspective together, and of course, create some kind of balance. But even at that balance, there's still, even if it's 0.1% of subjectivity, it's still subjective. So it's not 100% objective. But it is reality. It is what it is, and we have to live with it. I believe this 100%. Make it as best as in terms of like representation of the views. And if you want, I don't know. I have written lots of stories, and of course, there's always something lurking, in my mind. Sometimes it is unconscious, but there's something I want the reader to take on. It's very basic. Of course, it's very noble to say, well, I have no position in this. I just want the reader to take whatever position. That is good. But think carefully. There's still something unconscious, or sometimes even conscious. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to like point out, so balance is a tricky thing, very tricky. But you have to be credible. That's what's important. You know, your credibility in terms of like your sources. You know, as journalists, we have different sources. You have to get the sources and put all of these views on board and make it like, you know, kind of objective, basically. So another important thing is credible sources, and it is very good to acknowledge the sources, you know, when you can, when it is necessary, and they must be credible. All right, they must be credible. We are in the age of, you know, fake news and all that, and there's no point going into that. We all know what fake news is, and that's where, you know, your sources come in, how credible they are, and that's very, very important. Then there is also something that you don't want to do as a as a journalist or as a story, you know, it's this.
Please, can you?
I think my internet's gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I saw this one now. So I was saying something about plagiarism. That as a writer, you want to cite, you know, give all the citation from your sources when necessary, and you don't copy someone's work or somebody's idea without giving them the credit. You know, I've seen that has ruined a lot of brilliant minds in journalism, just so that we, you know, put that into perspective. You know, avoid plagiarism with everything you have, and try to be original. But most importantly, your story should be relatable, something that people will be able to like relate with. It is also something beautiful. So the relativity and all of them, we can go into the style of say how you write, say writing with well, not writing with, say, with a passive voice. And by passive voice, I mean where you're understanding that the action that your subject is in direct control of what the action is going on in your story. It is really, really important. It makes your story come alive, but also make it like, you know, confident and beautiful, something that people want to. You don't want to write in the passive voices. It is just not, you know, palatable if you want. I don't know what else I can say, you know, add to this. But yes, generally, tell a story. It's important to hear yourself as a storyteller, and every story has a beginning, you know, the body and the end. So structure, and, you know, makes it beautiful. It makes people want to read it. Makes people want to, like, you know, go beyond the headlines and all of that. Basically, all right. I don't know if anybody wants to contribute one or two things. As I said, we're all learning. There's no expert here. I'm not one, certainly not. Maybe King James is an expert, but yeah. But yes, really, seriously, you know, if you want to say something, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add a little to when you were talking about objectivity, of course, it's very important, but during my university days as well, we were taught news writing, and when it came to objectivity, it was, instead of it being a topic, it was a question: is objectivity possible? And we all shouted, yes, it's possible, it's possible. Yeah, it has to be, and all of that. So the lecturer said, okay, as a reporter, you are given a bit to go to town. Your father is, let me say, public servant, because I don't know how it is in other countries, but permanent secretary, that's what he called it. That's the highest level of, yeah, you know, civil servant. And your mom is also a senior civil servant, you know. So you are the editor and you send a reporter to town, and instead of getting a story on domestic violence, then he sees your father pursuing your mom with a cutlass. Your mom gets naked in the process. And then you bring the stories with photos. So as the editor, are you going to publish that? Then we started withdrawing, So the whole thing is, yeah, you try to be as objective as possible, but again, writing your story, and it is for the public. So you look at public interest first. Is it going to cause a stir in the public, face and all of that? So yeah, you can maintain objectivity. But one key thing that Newman mentioned is credibility. So once you as a reporter or the media house is credible, is trusted, that way you bring a story and people are the ones to judge, because the people who are reading you or listening to you are key, to your story. Let me also quickly go back to what I think it was Hussein who talked about their print because of COVID going online. So the truth is this: if I have a newspaper, some people call it a history paper because they don't read that, they just go through the headlines and you can sit comfortably and read afterwards. But one key thing that Hussein and every one of us should have in mind is now migrating from print, where you have the whole time in the world, to read, and going over to the website or electronic kind of writing style. You are not going to have the whole time writing very lengthy articles or stories. So that is the quick difference there. I think it was also, was it Sheila or Sydney who was talking about casting, compressed storylines on social media. It's the same thing. When I see somebody write long stories on Facebook, all of us here will agree that you just laugh over it, and maybe you just go to make them happy, but you don't read those things. So yeah, quickly just brushing on some of the the key points that were made here. I was writing an article in a national newspaper in Nigeria, and I called it radio newspaper. That's because I'm tilted more to radio, and I know that in radio you have compressed writing because they don't have all the time. So I was writing in newspaper, but in a radio format. And for me, that's how I write, whether print or no print. If you want me to post an article in the print media, I don't use the print language that you pick a dictionary, you keep it by the side, and then you write English and vocabulary that is not in everyday use, because it's print and you have space. So quickly it's just to bring them up to space with what is happening now online, either on the website, on the social media platforms, or even magazines or newspapers. You don't have all the time. So compressed writing, but again, key things from what Newman said is storytelling. Any form of communication is storytelling. Once it's not going to answer the questions. A lot of us must have heard about the 5 W's and H, which is what, when, where, why, who, and how. Those questions must be answered in every story you're writing. But again, it has to be compressed because people are now too busy with other things, and they're not going to sit and read, all of what you're writing. I think that will be it for now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Newman, maybe you want to expand more, or either of you, King James or Newman, maybe you want to expand more on structure, because I have read all the articles that came to the African Press Club, and I've seen the different problems that people have. You can write a story and you're jumping from one paragraph to another, different things. There's no structure and you're running all around the place. If you can say something about that, tips on how to do a structured story, a structure that has some shape.
Okay. Newman mentioned storytelling format, but he also says that every story has a beginning, the body, and the ending. So once you have those in mind, how do I begin it? I think the problem of what you are seeing is a lot of print media writers just believe in that feature story kind of writing. And so the mistake is they start with a lot of abstracts too much. So you see the structure falling apart because They're jumping from maybe midway to the beginning before the end, and at times it doesn't even end. So the key thing you have to take away is beginning, middle, and end. So where do I begin? And that's why they tell you the inverted pyramid style. The pyramid is like a triangle this way. So when you invert it, especially for, as I said, broadcast or print now is the same because people don't have time. So don't get carried away that you are writing for print. So if you invert a pyramid, it means it's bigger this way and down this way, meaning that you have to start with the most important part of your story, and then you can give the details down there later, so that even if people don't read to the end, they're not going to be lost with what they are reading. So for me, if you ask me the beginning, which is usually going to answer the question of what and where, before you can go to the whys and then the how towards the end. So that way you're not going to be lost and you're not going to jumble up your story, leaving the reader more confused than they were. So key takeaway, beginning, body, and end. You just need to know that.
Thank you very much. I will just add a few things to what you said, King James, which is true. If you remember from the beginning, I said, consider yourself as a storyteller. You have a story. And within that story, there's a message that is really, really key. I cannot overemphasize that. I said that before and I'll say it again. You have a message that you want to pass across, all right? Now, how do you pass that message across effectively? That is the one question that should bother you as a storyteller or as a writer or as anything. How do I pass this message effectively? Punto. When you're able to do that, that will come into the formatting, how you structure the story, beginning, or what you want to say, and how. And I remember I used one word, the logic. The logic. I cannot overemphasize that. You cannot, if I want to talk to, say, Constance about coffee, say about coffee, all right? And I say, hey, Constance, we'll be talking about Coca-Cola, and then from Coca-Cola, I jump into something else, and then to water, and it doesn't get my message across. It doesn't get my message across. So if I want to talk about something with Constance or anybody, I will think about, and that is the process of thinking. You must think through your story. You see, thank you, King James, for mentioning something. As a writer, you must always go with, carry a notebook or notepad, something where you can quickly jot down ideas. When I was, I started with, my driving to where I am in Galicia now, about 500 kilometers down the road. There was an article I've been trying to write for the past 2 years. For the past 2 years, I've thought about it, but it does not have a form. It is all scattered in my head. I've even tried to, write down. I can show you, my notebooks, or how I have in the past tried to, like, just to bring it, out together, to flesh it out. I have the basic idea, but how to logically present my case was not possible, not in the past 2 years. And the first time the team came together was whilst doing this driving, to this place. And immediately I was driving, so I couldn't write down. So what I kept doing was to keep, the shining moment in my thoughts, I kept memorizing and just saying it over and saying it over, so I don't forget, because that held the key, to unlock, to make that final, to embellish the story I've been trying to write for like the past 2 years. All right. And the first thing I did when I had a rest was to quickly note it down. Bottom line, whatever you're saying must be logical. If it's not logical, it's not a message. if you can go with this, for me, it is okay. And that's what that's what I do. Logic.
Okay, Newman, there is a question here from Sydney. He said, Newman, kindly explain using your story that has 4 points. The water pool, sleepover, dinner, and cancelled wine. Explain a structure using that story.
Oh, okay. I will say, look, when the reason why I thought about using last weekend as well for this talk was I just wanted to like tell you that in this whole general story of my journey from Luxembourg to Spain, yeah, one weekend, one weekend, there are highlights that I could write. I could write an article about all of these 4 points that I've highlighted. What I wanted to for you to understand in this whole in storytelling basically is I told you a story, general story about what happened for me in the weekend, but you see within that long story, I was able to like put 4 defining moments of what I could write about. And I can tell you without a problem, I can write about how my friends, jinxed me for the drink in Galicia. Very, very important. It's still in my mind. I have not forgiven them, and I'm going to write about that. Now, I have been driving all this with a motivation of coming to have this drink, with my friends I've been doing for years, and I was not able to do that. Second, the dinner in Bilbao, that is a different story altogether. Beautiful, but I can go on. And of course, in Lyon, so the takeaway from me for that was for you to know that within all the big stories, there are also sub stories that you can find, pinpoint, and find. Now, when you're talking about structuring all of that, for example, say in Lyon, when I stopped over to pass the night, I remember that when we got to the hotel, my family, went in and, because it was, we probably got there at about 1 a.m. Yeah, 1 a.m. And the first thing, they went in and then, to relax and everything. I couldn't go in because I was really, really tired. And I just sat down outside just to think about, my stories and everything. And there and then I could write about Leon just that night. Incredible. I even have a structure. I wish my book is here. I have to go upstairs, to get it there just to show you that how that. But it is the thinking through your story. It is what is key. When you think through your story and think through it, and does it make sense? Is it logical? And that's all you need. There's no magic formula. As I said, you have a message, and that message needs to get across. How can you make that message effective? Pass the message, people understand you. That's all. There's nothing.
Oh, okay, so I think another word for what Newman has said is, does your story flow when you read it, or does it look disjointed? It has to flow. If it doesn't flow, then you have to look at it. There's another question for King James from Nakiwala. She says, does the inverted pyramid structure apply to both hard and soft news? King James? Okay.
I would take that.
Okay.
It's probably, he's.
Oh, okay. He's just, I think he went up. Just coming back in. Hold on. I'm trying to admit him. Okay. King James, can you hear me now? And Newman, you can start talking. You're on mute.
Can you read the question again for me, please?
So the question, does the inverted pyramid structure apply to both hard and soft news?
Simple answer is yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I will tell you from my story, from my, people have this general notion that, the soft news, it's kind of like playful, it's not serious business. And that is a lie. That is a complete lie. And that was why I wanted to, like, even if it's paparazzi, photojournalism, which is very valid, and you can be what you want, even, just photos, presenting the photos, how you present them, all of that. But let me not go into that. Yes, it does apply. But you see, I noticed this. As a matter of fact, it is, and you may disagree with me on this. You may disagree on me. As a matter of fact, it is the sports, what you call the soft news, that first adopted or maybe I would say perfected it. Why? I love sports, especially football. I love football. I've followed football since I can't remember. All right. Now go to any, especially say the BBC, for example, or the BBC Sports. There's a match between, say, Chelsea and Fulham, just an example, or Barcelona, Chelsea, if you want. All right. Read the first paragraph. In the first paragraph, you will find all that you need to know. They will have given you the summary. It is complete summary of all that had happened in that match. As I noticed personally, I noticed that it is even the soft news that perfected the idea of inverting the whole storytelling scheme. So don't fall into the temptation of thinking like, in the hard news, which is like political journalism or crime, or business, as it were, that's where you get all the inverted and all. No, that's not true. As a matter of fact, it is in the soft news, that they actually perfected it. So bottom line, yes.
Okay, so just to add to that, it means that in your introduction, it should be like a summary. Someone should know where you're going from reading your introduction, whether they read the whole of your story or not. That first paragraph is crucial and it's critical. It has to represent what you're going to write.
I must admit that sometimes also it depends. It depends. But I'm saying that especially in sports and soft news, you must give that. It is now almost like the rule of thumb. But it does not always apply in other forms of writing. And it's true. There are lots of magazines. I can show you. There's an article I just read. There's an article I just read yesterday. Brilliant article. And if you want, I can quickly, Google it up and share with you, and tell me if you understand from the first paragraph where this guy is going to. Then we will see. So it's not a rule. It's not a rule. So don't kill yourself over this. As I said, what's important, that's why I was not emphasizing all of these rules of, inverted and that, and diagram, pyramid and all of that. It's not my style. If you remember the first thing I said, see yourself as a storyteller. You have a story. Within that story, there's a message. How you best present that message, it is what is key. And don't let anybody tell you about, any bottom line. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, Newman, it would be nice if you can Google up that story. Well, we'll try to, is it possible to Google it up and read to us? I think that would be good for the people.
I have my phone.
In the meantime, King James, are you here with us now? Looks like he's having.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
I lost completely. My internet messed up. So yeah.
Okay, so
I just came back.
Yeah, someone asked, does the inverted pyramid structure apply to both hard and soft news?
Yeah, well, if you see where I met Newman talking about some kind of laid down structure where it's not rigid, actually, it's not cast in stone. But the most important thing is news is news, it's storytelling, whether soft or hard. The ultimate aim is you want to tell somebody who was not there with you at the journey you know, to be with you at the journey, even if they were there, because you are presenting a story in a professional manner. They're going to get some things, some sort of little analysis that even though they were there, they didn't actually, you know, grab. So inverted pyramid can apply anywhere. The most important thing is where inverted pyramid now is key is because people don't have time to read a whole story you're trying to write. If you're under the cover of a feature story, therefore shouldn't hit the main point on time, but have a background, your background, too much of it could be an abstract. So they're going to get tired before they go to read. The other thing, I think somebody here, Hussein or somebody was emphasizing on casting headlines. A lot of times, either for the sake of mischief or anything, you see there is no marriage between a headline and the story. You know, so these are things that reporters or storytellers do. But back to emphasize on the question asked to me, if inverted pyramid applies to both soft and hard stories, is that it?
Yes.
Ultimately, the answer is you are telling a story, and I met Newman emphasizing on how you tell the story. For instance, the story of how his week went, he can start by saying, and I found myself driving in a pool of water, which almost swallowed up my car. And you are like, oh, how did it happen? Before he can tell you how he woke up and drove that distance to that point and what happened from that point. So if you look at the structure of his story as it happened, he may have started telling you in the middle of it, which is the part that is going to suspend you, put you in suspense, and you want to hear how it happens before he can tell you how he even woke up to brush and all of that. So yes, it's your story, but find the most appropriate entry point to your story. Perhaps that's where I'm talking of inverted pyramid style, because the most important aspect of that story is where you should actually start. I think that's what it means.
Thanks very much. Let's go back to Newman. Do you have it, please?
Yes, just hold on. I'm actually trying to.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
If you're not ready, we can continue.
No, it is ready, but I even want to put a link. And I think I've tried to put a link so everybody will have it. Have you seen any link?
No.
Okay, hold on, man. One more try, and then I'll read. If it's not,
you can send it to my email, and then I can post it here.
Okay, then you can put. Okay, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So let me read from it. Let me read quickly. I'm scrolling, to get to the top of the story. So now, it's an essay. The title is "Yes, It Is Obscene, Miss Adichie, but ... It's written by Dami Ajayi. You know Dami Ajayi, he's very popular. Now, it reads, this is the first, sentence. The world of letters is divided by temperaments, ideologies, perceived paranoia, and just plain bad blood. Second paragraph. Two Nobel laureates once took their gloves off in the evening of their years for literally boxing. Derek Walcott's mongoose, referencing the eponymous Caribbean creature, was once read out loud at a literary festival. In the witty and scathing poem, Walcott caricatures Sir V.S. Naipaul, his fellow Caribbean writer and Nobel laureate, and lands a good knockout blow. Third paragraph. Now that these two great writers of blessed memory, what is left besides their towering legacy in letters is the tender and brutal way they cut forth. They cut forth each other's ideology and practice. I admire both men, even if I'm not particularly persuaded by Naipaul's affection. Continue. Fourth paragraph. American white male writers also indulge in the literary feuds. Gore Vidal versus Truman Capote, is quintessential. Never mind that Vidal first dissed Capote's new journalism, a style he later appropriated and even won a Pulitzer for. Fifth, there are also intimate literary feuds in the firmament. Ever so often, I return to the scathing letter Saul Below wrote to his friend Jackie Ludwig, having an affair with Sandra, Bellow's second wife. And he went on and on and on and on like that. As a matter of fact, I have, I've seen a debate. There's a huge debate online. If you go to Twitter, you will see contributions from, different people saying that, what is this guy talking about? It's really, really interesting. It's a beauty, but of course you should have some kind of background for you to understand where the drift. I happen to have had some kind of background to this whole writing. That's why, so it makes a lot of sense to me. But if you don't, you really get lost literally in what this guy is saying. Just an example. I will post the article to you. And then you can put it in the group for people to see. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, send it to me and I'll post it. So another question that will bring some clarity to people. Newman and King James, you can both answer. So I have read all the articles that came to the African Press Club again, and I find that people are confused between a commentary and an actual story or article. So if you can help explain, how do I know how to write, to manage myself to write a commentary and an actual article?
I mean, it's as I said, how do you teach that on a forum like this? It's but bottom line is there are two different things. First, I would say look up what an article is. Do you know what an article is? Look it up. Mr. Google is everywhere. It can help you a lot. Mr. Google is an intelligent girl or boy, whatever you want to call him. But really, look it up. What's an article? Get the tips on internet. It's or ask somebody. One of the vital places I was going to talk about. For a writer, use the different literary clubs that you have around you. You need people, to help you along your journey. You know, someone that you should be able to turn in, whatever nonsense you've written, someone to read it through and to help you in your journey. And that way you begin to distinguish between what an article is, what a journal is, and all different kinds of pieces that you can write, or a letter, for example. It's not the same thing writing a letter or even an email. So there are different categories, but the key to this is who is your audience. I mentioned that. Your audience will determine, always remember the golden rule, you have a message. Yes, you have a message. And you're going to pass across a message. Second, to whom are you passing this message across to? To whom? It could be an academic, journal, for example. Then you know that there's different styles to that. Logically, right? If I'm writing, say, a doctorate thesis, like Constance is doing already, it's not the same thing like writing an email. No, it's not. Or it's not the same thing like writing an article for the BBC. There are different styles. There are styles to different things that you write. So, know what you're writing. And if you don't know, ask people around. Ask people. There are lots of people that, will be happy to help you. So, distinguish the styles, and then you will know exactly what to do.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, James? And then we would, go into questions and then come back to Newman. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to mention in the chat and then we can give you an opportunity to ask your question by yourself.
Yeah, maybe just to add to what Newman said, for me, it also depends on the background and the medium you are representing, but largely a commentary it's like providing your viewpoint to an issue or to a topic. So it's more to me like personal viewpoint or an insight. So it's purely what you think about the subject matter, which an article could also be on a subject matter, but this time around, you are not necessarily presenting what you think about the subject. If I'm writing a news story, for instance, I am supposed to, if I must answer the key questions in the why, the how, the where, the when, and the who, it simply means I am going to also talk to people to provide a background to that story. I'm going to interview the newsmakers, that story. Maybe I'm reporting an event, but that is a different case. If you are reporting COVID, for instance, you are looking at how it came, how it spreads, and now with the vaccine, how is it effective? How is it curbing the spread and all of that? And then the different variants. That is an article you're going to write. If it is a commentary on what you feel about COVID, it's more like your personal feeling, your personal insight into the subject matter, which is COVID. So you are actually going to approach from two different perspectives. But the question would be whether you are the editor or you are the news reporter and all of that, whether you are allowed to do that. So maybe in summary, commentary to me, as the name implies, is providing an insight, personal viewpoint to a subject matter, whereas an article is actually, you know, telling a story of an event. Thank you.
Sydney, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. Sydney, can you mute yourself? Okay, thanks, King James, for that. Something to add. At the beginning, either of you mentioned sources, credible sources. And in some of the stories I've seen, please, I would advise, do not sit down and make up quotes. When you make up quotes, it comes across, you know, people can see that you're making up a quote. If you want to talk to people, you have to get out there and go and talk to people about your subject matter and then quote them. And that is what credible source is about. That is so, so important. If you don't want to quote people, don't make up at all. Just write your story. You can write a story without quoting sources. Okay, and then the other thing is read BBC every day. They have so many stories on culture, travel, all sorts of topics. That would help you. Like Newman also said, read widely. Other agencies and news organizations will be helpful. As long as you read, it will help you to advance and get better at writing. Back to Newman, what else do you have for us? We'll be wrapping up soon, so I'll take it back to you.
Yeah.
On mute. Okay.
Yes. At the tail of what you just talked about, you know, yes, you have to read wide and read all, but also remember, it doesn't stop there. If you want to write, you have to do the actual writing itself. So whilst it is advisable to do lots of reading, you have to do lots and lots of writing too. Even when it didn't make any sense to you, you have to write, for you can only get better the more you write. You know, there's no magic to it. So keep writing and writing. As I said, take advantage of, say, the literary clubs around you. You know, be a member. You know, read the books, write, and give it to someone, you know, to look it up for you. Try to edit it yourself first, and then give it to someone. There's always someone that's willing, you know, there's a mentor, mentee, anybody that will be, you know, willing to help you in your journey. And what's important is just keep writing and keep writing, read and write and read and write and read and write, and you'll get better without that, you know.
We will come to King James, but before we do that, I would like us to follow our social media handles at African Press Club, and everybody that is here, follow our social media handles, Instagram and Facebook at African Press Club. Please do that now so that You can have updates on what we're doing and see what we're doing. That would also help you in your journey to becoming a fantastic writer that you want to be. So search now and follow us on African Press Club on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well. There's a question, sorry, a question just came in. Let me see. I have problem with sources, Kiganda saying, when one says, don't record me, and I talk to him or her for about an hour, I find a problem remembering the exact words they say. Any tip, King James? Let's start from that.
Yeah, I saw the comment coming, yeah, from Hussein. What I would say is, Hussein, first, these people are willing to contribute, but they don't want you to record them. They're not going to stop you from writing. I know what you are saying. It can actually be difficult. You want to play back so that you can quote them exactly. So in this case, if you can jot down what they are saying, you are going to paraphrase what is said. So it's not going to necessarily end in quotation marks, because maybe you are adding slightly a new dimension with slight meaning or context to what they are saying. But you can source, you can give credit to them as the source. The thing is, are you recording for radio? Are you recording for TV? Otherwise, they're willing to talk to you. Why wouldn't they want you to record them? But if they don't want, that's the thing. So there are two things here. Hussein, don't record me, but quote me. If don't record me, but quote me is there, then as you're trying to write the key things, first they're talking, you are making your points, key points. If you now know that I want to quote them on a particular line, you call their attention back to it to say it in their exact words, and you write it down. That way, if you want to quote them as they said it, you will be able to. But if you want to give a context into what they're saying, you can say, according to Newman, Sami, COVID is a creation of blah, 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 blah. So not exactly how he said it, but you know within the context in which he said it. That way you will be safe.
Thank you, King James. Just to Constance, and just to add another layer to your question, and now it is me asking you a question. You know, what do you do when there's a burning issue? You want to talk to this guy or this woman or anybody about this thing, you know, and you finally get an audience with them, and they sit down, they agree to talk to you, but not on camera. In other words, to say that you can't quote me. What I'm telling you ends right here in this room between you and I. Yes, I'm going to say everything. I'm not going to hold out anything, but you cannot quote me. What do you do in this situation?
Oh, are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking. No, I'm asking everybody. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
actually, yeah. Well, but I'm asking them. I'm those that.
Oh, okay, I can answer the question, but go ahead, writers, answer the question.
Newman, I hope they understand that you are throwing it back at them.
Okay, let me paraphrase now. This is a question for all of you. You've asked me a few questions. This is me asking you a question now, and I want your contribution to this. As I said, we are all learning. I said that from the beginning. I just added a layer to the question that was answered later. I said, what happens when there's an issue, there's something that's really burning, and you wanted to, like, you want to have an interview with a person, Mr. A, for example. So you finally get to sit down with Mr. A, and the Mr. A agrees to give you this interview, all right? So he doesn't hold back on anything, or she doesn't hold back on anything, but it comes with a caveat, namely that you cannot quote me. But you see, I am just giving you this interview. I'm telling you what you want, whatever question you can ask me, any questions, and I'm going to reply, but you cannot quote me. What do you do? That's the questions for all of you. Sheila, Kinga, Kiganda, Natalie, everybody, what do you do in this situation? Nobody wants to go?
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. But no, before you come in, maybe Constance, yeah, come in for us, please.
Yes, so when you do an interview, the person doesn't want to be quoted. You can still write down everything. And then in your story, you can say, according to a source who prefers anonymity. So don't be afraid, as long as you have a credible source, as long as you're not making it up, write down everything and then say, according to a source, or according to sources, if it's more than one person, according to sources who prefer anonymity, ta, 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 ta. That's how you do it. And then to add to what King James said about someone who you interviewed but doesn't want to be quoted specifically, but you can use what they have said. You can paraphrase them. You can paraphrase. That means summarize what they are saying and then write it. Yes.
Thank you very much. King James, anything you want to add to that?
Yes. Constance made mention of, she said it again, the issue of in Nigeria, for instance, the constitution provides for, defends the journalists from not revealing their sources. So you can, the issue of anonymity is tricky, because if you see, Constance actually said warned or advised against making up stories. So when you leave it out to most writers that they can hide the identity of their sources, that is where the issue of sitting and making up stories, would come in. But if you see what Sydney wrote in the chat, he says, you give him or her a name that is not his or her real name. While that is also good, if it is in an organization, for instance, and you quote a King James working with WHO, and some people can probe further to find out that there is no King James working at the WHO. It's very easy to bring out the staff list of WHO, for instance, and they will discover that such name doesn't exist. So it becomes the issue of credibility of your story. It may be an insider source, but once you give such a name, it doesn't work. But if somebody is telling their personal life story, and the person telling their story could be a King James, but you can decide to call me a King David or a Daniel. That way, nobody knows where you got me. So I'm trying to let Sydney know different situations and scenarios where they can actually give people pseudo or pen names, pseudonyms or pseudonames or pen names, so that is where the difference is. Because when you try to sail, when a writer is easily sailing on the fact that they can say anonymous at times, that is where they can actually sit and make up stories. Yeah, that's just what I want to add.
Yeah, but King James, if you are a reporter that is worth your salt, and is worth your name, and you want to be credible in the industry and respected, you will not be making up stories and quotes and saying according to sources. You will not do that. That's an indictment on the ethics and codes and values of journalism. If you really want to be a true reporter, you can't be doing that. You cannot. I mean, that has been in cases that are very sensitive, highly sensitive, especially investigative reporting. People have no other choice but to use anonymous sources. So it's something you use sparingly. If it's general stories, most people don't mind, but in very sensitive, in countries that have dictatorships where they're chasing people around, they're going to kill you. In those instances, this is an option. So it's just an addition to what you're saying.
Yeah, it's key actually. You can, just as you said, inside source is safer than trying to give a name in an organization that people can easily find out and call you a liar. But a lot of us here must have heard about armchair journalism. So armchair journalism means you sit here and you make up the story. So people make them up a lot. What they forget is the listener or the reader or the viewer has discerning ears, so they are going to know exactly where you are lying. Um, for instance, some of my colleagues back at Asil Radio in Abuja, then we were the first radio station in the nation's capital, but there were news stories that you find an editor going behind the canteen and talking to colleagues and giving them names as people in the street. So when you even record them, the voice is actually, the ambience is actually not the one from the streets, but your colleagues. So when people keep hearing the names that you're making up, credibility, just as you said, if you know your audience, and it's good for upcoming journalists not to begin that way. At times it can be difficult for you to get your sources, but it's better you try to, and don't be discouraged. Newman mentioned that, yeah, somebody is willing to give you everything, but don't quote me. Yes, you simply say an inside source. The point is you are reporting, everybody knows that the way you are reporting, you are getting that information from within, truly. So at that point, they're not bothered about who even gave it to you. The fact remains that you are reporting from the inside source. So yes, to add again, don't be discouraged to use anonymous, but if it is in a situation where you think someone can dig up the names, don't give a name. Rather, anonymous is safer.
Right. Thanks very much for that, King James. One last thing I would like both of you to touch on before we close for today. Natalie did mention she wanted to have some tips about how to cast headlines. Any thoughts from both of you?
Quickly, just have a look again. I don't know, we said it's not very clear. One of the reasons why the founder, one of the reasons why he founded this magazine then. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
One of the reasons why this magazine was founded was because of the lousy headlines that you get in magazines generally. And he is very particular about, lively headlines, but much more than that, witty. For him, the wit, to bring up, headlines is key. And we experimented with some of the headlines, and it takes, some thinking actually. Let me see if I can see one. You can see one there, sweet, happy people. Quickly, just squeeze. Can you see that? No, you can see. The Python squeeze. Can you see? No, sorry, it's like this. Can you see now? Can you see? Can you see?
Yes, the Python squeeze.
Python squeeze. I'll just give more time. Now, all dressed up with nowhere to go. Quickly. Can you see that? Of progress, Africa and jackals. We were obsessed. We were obsessed with coming up with, creative, really creative, but very witty headlines. Because for us, that marked the level of intelligence. And we were not, look at this. This is the back of the magazine. This is the front. And look at what is written here at the back. Can you read it out, Constance?
Yes, quite frankly, not everyone can read KTQ.
Thank you very much. It's the ideology. When we set out, putting up this magazine, we knew that we were not writing for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's very exclusive. It was intentional, but our base was, the intellectuals and all of that. But so we needed to come up with this, very creative, not just lazy headlines and all of that. So I understand, what you're saying, but the key to doing that is you have to read a lot. You have to read a lot. I will give you one example, and maybe I'll put a poser. I'll put a poser for us, so we'll see how we crack that up. Right? Just one poser. This was the BBC coming up. No, was it the BBC? No, hold on a bit. I want to be sure. No, sorry. This was The Economist. You know the magazine, the popular magazine, The Economist? Yeah, anyway, it is for me, arguably the best magazine in the world, The Economist. That's my opinion. You can disagree with me on all of that. But the Economist, one of the writers came up with this headline, well, the headline of work. And it says, The Blair Witch Project. I'll write it. Maybe I should write it so you can get the gist. Because if you don't know it, you don't know it. I will write it so you have an idea. The Blair Witch Project. Can you see that? Is that readable? Now, when you see a headline like this, the Blair Witch Project, what comes to your mind? Anybody? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
A terror movie?
The movie. The movie. Absolutely. And what's the name of the movie?
The Blair Witch
The Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
Blair Witch Project. Absolutely. The Blair Witch Project, even though it's not the same spelling, but if you know the movie, you know that this guy is going somewhere along that line. So, but it takes some kind of creativity. So this is the brilliance. This is the brilliance with coming up with. So you have to read, you have to watch a lot of films if you want, and reading, reading is part of watching movies. It's all part of education. Bottom line, you have to read a lot, read wide, watch movies, do everything. And when it comes to condensing what you want to pass across, believe me, you will have enough resources within you to bring out something, catchy, something that's not boring, something that's challenging, something that's witty.
We're going to take one last question. There's a question here. Okay, before that, King James, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to add something about how to cast headlines?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I saw from the beginning, yeah. That's what few people, I don't remember who and who talks about casting headlines, but it's an important thing actually. Let me
Okay, he's off again.
Yeah.
Let me read the next question. Maybe you can start on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to share something quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. All right. So hello.
Yes, we lost you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me, but you can't see anything.
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see your screen, a picture of you in a native attire.
Exactly. So if you look at that picture, who can see something unusual there?
The shoes.
Right. What else?
Two wristwatches. Two wristwatches.
Is he still with us?
Are you with us? Yeah.
Okay, we'll try and wrap up soon because the network is
yeah, it's really bad. Okay, fine. So do you mind you saw the shoes and what?
Wristwatch.
Exactly. So so let me stop the screen sharing and come back here and exit that one. It's me you can see now, right?
No, we can't see anything.
Okay, hold on just a minute. So I'm not sharing screen again. Can you see me now?
Yeah. We can see you, yes.
Okay, exactly. Okay, so I don't have much time, but if I can ask any of you quickly to cast a headline for that, you have an idea of who I am now. In the morning, I posted that on Facebook and I asked my Newman, you probably saw it.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I wanted to attend wedding of one of my boys and I asked my Facebook friends to choose for me one wristwatch, which pair of shoes, or both at the event. So a lot of people said I should wear brown wristwatch and brown shoes, one. But if you saw me like that at an event, what would be your headline? Assuming that you know me as radio personality, what would you say? I'm trying to cast the headline already, but what would you say quickly? Natalie, Evelyn, Sydney, Sheila, Temitokbe, Kiganda, quickly.
Okay, I will say what comes to mind.
Newman is not for you. Leave the student.
Are they there?
Who wants to go first? I think it takes a little bit of thinking. Who wants to go first? Right. Natalie, do you want to go since this is your topic? Okay, there's something in the chat.
Somebody says King James betrayed. Yeah. King James betrayed by fashion. Who else? Who else? Okay. All right. So since you're having issues, Constance, maybe we should just go on and
Yes. Go ahead, please.
On your mind, you want to say what was on your mind quickly?
I would say quintessential King James.
Right.
Simply.
So you can see, yeah, if you are listening, you can see that the headlines coming in. I was telling my wife that I would say radio personality appears at wedding with 2 shoes and 2 wristwatches. And then you are wondering, is he holding the shoes? Is he wearing them? You know, but if it comes to the photo, you can easily take your eyes down the shoes and see. But if it's a headline that is not coming, you would want to find out how is that news? Was he holding the wristwatches, wearing them? You know, so that way you have had an idea, but then you can now go ahead and cast your, you know, so who asked the question, Sydney?
Who asked that? No, Natalie.
Okay, so Natalie, that is the whole idea. A headline is very short sentence summarizing what happened at an event, but also being catchy. Now you will also understand that a lot of newspapers in wherever country they are with sensational headlines. Sensational headlines, the disadvantage is at times because they want to sell, they want to grab your attention, so they can say things that they are not going to be able to defend in the story. So they can say anything, you know, like somebody would call the name of a president in my country, for instance. A meat seller could bear the name of your president, and then somebody calls the name of your president. For instance, King James is the president here, but a meat seller is also a King James. And then you can say King James seen urinating by the road. And then because the president is King James, that meat seller is King James, and you want everybody to think is the president, you know, that way it could lead into problems because you want to sell. So headlines, casting them, you have to be creative, summarize, but avoid sensational headlines. I don't know if I'm able to communicate this, but it's more of an art. It's an innate thing, actually. I think you can hardly learn how to cast creative headlines, but they can teach you. So maybe where you don't worry so much is, I think perhaps your editor might help you to cast them. But if you are writing directly, not too long, catchy, and not abstract.
Thanks very much for that, King James. Lastly, because we have to go, question and quickly. Temitope asks, how I would like to know how media information literacy can be used to combat fake news in our society. How media information literacy can be used to combat fake news in our society.
Right.
Quickly.
Understanding media literacy is basically how the different, you know, media or different forms of communication, you know, how they work. So the question now is, there is social media, but credibility of an established media that they call the mainstream media are only supposed to use social media to reach out. So you as an individual writing on social media, it's your name. But if you see as King Radio is a credible organization that you trust or you trusted before knowing them on Facebook, the same thing, the African Press Club, it's an established name, you know it. So meaning that whatever they're putting on Facebook is different from an individual Facebook account that could just put something there. So it's something that you also need, again, taking the question back to you, Temitope, first knowing about fake news. A lot of YouTube channels, for instance, can get you, they can just get an extract from a movie and then tell you that housewife caught having sex with, but it's not real. It was in a movie, but you are looking at it like something that happened in reality and you rush to it. So the question to answer that for me is credibility, going to credible media sources. So yes, Asking Radio is on Facebook, but it's not Facebook, it's not a social media thing. The credible medium is only using Facebook to reach out. So if I understand this question, how media literacy can help in curtailing the spread of fake news, is said.
Yes.
Yes, so you don't expect news coming from BBC to be fake. If BBC breaks news, for instance, and tells that details are being awaited or the news is developing story, breaking news means developing story. So you will get the details as happen. It's different from an individual who rushes to say anything and you going ahead to spread it. Even as an individual, if you have followed Newman, for instance, and you know that Newman would not just share news that he doesn't know the source, then that way. I'm trying to tell Temitope that there is no straight answer to his question, but just knowing where you are getting this and what you do with the information you actually get is key.
And just to add to that, you must also know that, you know, as I said, people have motives. You know, there are people, whether a news channel or an individual, they have a motivation. They have there's something behind their minds for writing or sharing news. So you as a reader, you must try to know, ask yourself, why is this guy putting up this thing? It may be the BBC, it may be anybody. It doesn't exempt anybody from this. It is your duty as an individual to ask that simple question. Why are they sharing what they're sharing? What is there for them? This will actually help you as a reader, as a consumer of contents, to begin to sieve, you know, what is credible and from what is like fake. And of course, the source is key. You cannot, overemphasize that. You must know, somebody, it's not enough for somebody to say something, dig deeper, go back and dig and see where is the source, where is it coming from. And sometimes that discovery may lead you to somewhere that will blow your mind totally. So the source is important. Now, when you see the source, then you understand, the motive. Okay, now For example, if, for example, Donald Trump says something, Donald Trump, if you know Donald Trump a bit, and that is for you to do as a person, you should know his motive for saying that. And that way you're able to, it helps you first and foremost to condense the news and know what to expect, and that way you're not carried away.
Okay. Tommy Tokwe, I think you were trying to say something, but again, to add to what Newman said, for instance, I've seen few videos of people sticking their mobile phones or metallic objects on their shoulder where they took COVID vaccine, and saying that what is inside the vaccine that is making still or even mobile phones stick to their arm. I've seen that. Now, what happens is when you see videos shared on social media, first thing that should come to your mind, if it is not coming from a credible source, credible news sources, as you know, if it comes from them, you should believe to some extent. But when it's coming from individuals, at times you don't know the source. So what I have done, I am not believing necessarily that when people take COVID vaccine, magnets stick there. I mean, it becomes a magnet in them, mobile phones stick there, or spoons or sword. So I have called my friends that I'm very sure have taken the COVID test, and I asked them to put the phone on their shoulder so that I will see if it actually sticks. That is the only way I would know, and I can also write and question why that is happening. But all of my friends, either they laugh, or my friend in Canada simply told me that is the lowest thinking of these people who are spreading lies about the COVID vaccine. So you can see the effort I made to telling somebody that I know. If only they did, I could write. But now that nobody has done that, I am assuming that those people who are saying their phones are sticking to their shoulders, I'm assuming that is fake news. I don't know if I've answered you again, Timmy Tokwe, but these are a few ways of finding out.
Thank you very much.
So,
okay, you wanted to say?
Yes. Thank you, King James. But then I have a last question. In Nigeria, a lot of people depend on Instablog, Gossip New Niger, and all these social media sites for their news. Are they part of what contributes to fake news too? And also, how will people know that they are not a form of credible news source?
First thing is, Newman is emphasizing on the motive. If you see blogs, for instance, you can't rule out aspect of journalism in them because they're telling stories. But the aim is to have traffic, and so that you know what is called AdSense. On your website, the more traffic, on your blog, the more traffic, the more money you make. So that is the first thing. So those sources you're mentioning, I've never, ever trusted them. The first thing I know is they're trying to get that traffic first. So except I read it from a source again. That is one of the reasons why BBC Pidgin came to Nigeria, for instance, to join that clique of soft news, but they're always there and you can verify that BBC Pidgin is there. So that way you can believe more. So when you read, the role you can play is don't share yet. Don't rush to share. There was something we were taught at the BBC World Service that it is better to be second and right than first and wrong. So when you rush, that is the thing. So first, take home from Newman is motive. Instablog Niger first is a blog that is looking for traffic. So whatever they write, do you just take it to the bank? That is the question you should ask yourself.
Wow. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we cannot take more. We would have loved to. We have come to the end of the program today. As I said earlier, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at africanpressclub.com. Sorry, at African Press Club. We will be having more of this. We have your email, so we'll be sending out information, maybe not regularly, but we definitely would be having more of this. We would like to hear from you. Send us an email, give us some feedback, how this went, what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you would want to see in future. Please do that because it will help us to develop the program more and to tend to your needs. That's what we're trying to do, to help you in the journey to become a good writer. But we also need to know what you need and to follow you step by step and to hold your hands in doing so. Thank you so much, Newman.
One more thing.
Yes.
Just a quick thing before you, I'll give you back. I will sit the microphone to you. When I asked you the highlight for last weekend, it was for a reason. I wanted you. I was going to ask you, whoever is interested, to write something about any of the highlights. I don't know, 500 words or something, even less, 300, 400, and send it to us. We will continue the discussion. Send it to the African Press. I and Constance will look it over. We will help you with improving basically. And so anything, feel free. Just write something, and then we can always take it up from there. So.
Very good. We still receive stories for publication. We're a platform that gives you opportunity to publish and sell yourself to the world, sell yourselves. So if you have story ideas, please send it to us and we can discuss further in the coming weeks so that we can keep publishing in our monthly newsletter. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, King James, for the time. I pulled Newman out of his vacation to do this. We owe you a lot. And thanks everyone that has interest. I hope that you would continue to be interested in this journey. And please also invite your friends for the next training program. Have a good weekend, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to send us email info@africanpressclub.com. Thank you and have a lovely weekend. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, King James. Thanks, Temi.
King James.
Natalie.
King James and Newman. Wait. King James and Newman, wait. Let's have a brief chat before you run off. Okay.
All right.
Everyone, it's time to exit.
Sydney. Everybody.
Yeah, so hello, Newman. Is he gone?
No, I did.
Yeah, he's there.
So we're still Nakiwala and Sydney. Do you want to take your exit?